I look at Watsonx now is a vehicle to help customer build their own unique AI story. They can use our framework and tool to build, play with generative AI models, machine learning models. They can use our data repository to store, empty amounts of data that is needed to tell their own story.
Welcome to How AI Happens, a podcast where experts explain their work at the cutting edge of artificial intelligence. You'll hear from AI researchers, data scientists, and machine learning engineers as they get technical about the most exciting developments in their field and the challenges they're facing along the way. I'm your host, Rob Stevenson, and we're about to learn how AI happens. My guest today cut his teeth in software engineering and has since forged a career leading teams of firmware engineers and performance engineers, as well as holding leadership roles in product management for IBM Z and IBM Systems. Currently, he is the VP of Product Management, Data and AI at IBM. Tarun Chopra. Tarun, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
Thank you, Rob, for having me. Looking forward to this one for a while. I'm glad we are here.
Yeah, me as well. Did I do justice to your curriculum vitae? Is there anything you'd add in about your background that maybe I skipped over?
No, you did. I think the only thing I will add is 20 years of IBM experience. As you said, did a lot of software engineering, line management jobs. Over the last 12 months or so, I've been leading IBM Data and AI product for IBM. And if you haven't heard generative AI over the last 3-4 months, that has taken over my life. And it's been an exciting time shaping IBM product strategy to bring these capabilities in the marketplace.
Yeah, of course. So, Tarun, in your role, you are, of course, tasked with understanding the ways lots of different companies might need AI services and would use IBM to help bring their AI products to market. And so I'm curious, in this really fast-moving space, what is your intellectual diet like? What are you kind of consuming to make sure that you stay up to pace and stay abreast of our space?
The first thing, what I'm lucky in my role, Rob, is I get to talk to a lot of customers around the globe. IBM being an international company, I just get a chance and privilege to talk to a lot of customers, talk to a lot of partners, talk to a lot of technology companies, visit a lot of our customers day in, day out. To me, that becomes my first source of information because, that's where I really get to know what customers are experiencing, what are the problems they're trying to solve, how they're trying to work with the technology, how they are trying to adopt these technologies. Right? Technology is one angle, but to put these technologies in production mode in large enterprises and large base is much more than technology. I use these words as people, processes, compliance, audit, regulations. Everything gets in there, jumble mumbled, and then you prioritize this thing. So I will say that's my first source of information, really getting that information. Second thing I will say is looking at the innovation curve and what is really happening in the marketplace, reading a lot of literature. One of the things, I say to everybody, generative AI is a great example. If I would be honest with you and I say I knew 6 months ago this is going to be such a big thing, or I know IBM was working on it, but we were paying some attention and research was doing a lot of work, I had to relearn this space. I had to get myself educated. So my advice to the audience will also be, there's so much information out there. There's so much valuable insights out there. Keep up to date to a lot of this stuff, right? So that I will say that's my second information source, where I just go to the marketplace, search what's happening, what other thought leaders are doing, and how can we bring some of these capabilities into our solutions. The third thing I will say, Rob, for me is also listening very closely and intently to my sales team. They're in the grounds and they are the one pushing a lot of these technologies and stuff. And what are they hearing? I get a lot of my useful information from there as well. So I will say customers first. I'm lucky there because I do get access to a rich set of customers globally. Second, I think the education never stops. You got to keep looking, especially the fields that we are working in. You have to keep looking at all the avenues out there. And third, I will say, just keep a pulse with your sales and marketing and client engineering teams to see what's really taking place in the marketplace.
Because of all the various customers you get to interface with, you kind of have access to the front lines in a way. So I suppose the answer to this question ranges wildly, but what are the common challenges people are facing when you're speaking with folks? What do you tend to hear?
As you said, it ranges widely, right? I think I see a spectrum, Rob, out in the marketplace. Some customers are ahead in this AI adoption journey. Some customers are somewhere in the middle. Some customers are starting. Key things that I see, Rob, one is skills is an issue, right? skills and finding the right skills to do the AI journey. That's an issue across the globe in the marketplace. Second thing, customers is also like, quite frankly, where to start. A lot of people get enamored by technology, right? But the biggest question in the AI space, in the data space, in the data science or machine, whichever the words you want to go use is what problems you are trying to solve. So finding a good problem to solve and then applying the technology is also another important aspect that I see in customers and clients' journey. One of the first thing I tell clients is, hey, if you don't know what problems we are solving, then we are on the wrong path. We gotta first we gotta debate it first, what is going on. And the third thing I will say is a lot of our customers have adopted AI, but they have adopted, if the workflow is, let's say, 10 steps, they have applied AI to the one or the two steps. They don't get to realize the full value of that innovation because there's 8 more steps to be done in that workflow automation. So understanding the problem and bringing the full workflow under that microscope of the innovation becomes very important for the C-level audience to see the returns on their investment. So having that debates and discussion and education becomes very important. For example, as I give you an example, in IBM, we really looked at our HR flow and really automated the entire HR flow through AI and generative AI and those capabilities to simplify how we engage our employees into HR matters, right? But that was an end-to-end flow automation, and we saw quite a few benefit. But some of the traditional mechanism will be just take two pieces of the HR flow and try to do something and then go look at the next thing. But the problem with that is you don't get to see the whole return. So skills, where to start, looking at an end-to-end automation and workflow, those I will say are the 2 or 3 key important things. Usually I go engage with clients when we first start off our conversations and how we go about adopting AI and enterprise scale. And I'm not even mentioning the points now doing it at scale, the governance, the compliance, the regulations, that comes in at some point in time, but that is also a big topic in the marketplace.
Yeah, it sounds like first and foremost, you are pushing people to really hone in on what the specifics of their problem is, right? Which is it's this good partnership at the top of things. But that kind of leads, I think, into a little bit of IBM's larger AI strategy for helping companies. And this is a nebulous, perhaps big question, but IBM is a big company. So we'll maybe start broad and we can get specific as we go on and maybe earn the insight. But with as fast as the AI space is changing, what do you view IBM's role in the AI ecosystem, and how is IBM kind of working to help accelerate change?
Look, we've been in this journey, Rob, with Watson platform 12 years ago, right? And of course, there's some will say it was a successful thing. Some will say it was a not so too successful. I kind of use it as it was a great learning experience for us, right? Over the 10 years, we've been working a lot with our clients and implementing these capabilities to enterprises at scale. So if you ask me, what did we learn? Like, what did we really learn in that process? What we learned is, as I said, it's just not about technology, right? There's a lot that goes into big enterprises environment to adopt AI at scale, right? You need skills. Customers need help. Customer needs to know how to implement these capabilities, the compliance, the regulations, the auditing. You see all the rules and the laws that is coming into AI. Because of that learning, we formed our own AI ethics board, right? To make sure that we are adopting these practices, keeping fairness, biases, everything in mind. We were the one who said, we're not going to do any more face recognition with AI because we didn't thought that was the right thing to go do. Because all these lessons came from the close working together we are doing with our clients over the last 10 plus years, right? So when this next wave comes in with the generative AI and foundation models, we are very uniquely positioned to help our clients get the benefit because we learned those lessons. So that's where, if you have the recent news that we did, is our Watsonx platform, where X really stands for scale, right? Customers can do 1 or 2 prototypes in production, but when they're really looking at 10, hundreds, thousands of these experiments, how to bring them into one fold is a big challenge for us. And that's where we introduced the Watsonx platform, which has like 3 sort of components. One is kind of the dot AI, the tool for the builders, right? Both machine learning and generative. The dot data, the open lakehouse repositories to store all this data that is coming in. And finally, the more important piece is the governance piece, right? Who has created the model? Where is the information is coming from? When the model is running, what does it mean for bias, robustness, accuracy, all that kind of stuff. And then finally, taking all these hundreds of models and feeding into your compliance and audit process automatically, not one by one, right? Automatically. So if you are a AI audit person coming into a shop and saying, show me what you are doing and show me that what you were supposed to be doing is what you're doing, it has to be an automated process. It can be a visual inspection process, right? Because AI becomes a bigger black box. So we took all these kind of learning and capabilities and put into this one platform. And the role of IBM is to really, on top of it, we have 1,000+ consultant, 300, 400 client engineering people that are working with clients implementing these things, because as I said, skills is an issue for our clients. So that role in the broader ecosystem, and then more importantly, working with the broader ecosystem, working with AWS, working with Microsoft, working with other partners of our SAP and things, implementing these capabilities to us is what we think is our role to play in the marketplace.
I really want to spend more time speaking about where Watson is now. But first, you mentioned quickly about facial recognition technology. So that is news to me that IBM is not going to play in that space. Is that specific to facial recognition, or is that kind of IBM taking a stand on biometrics writ large?
We did that, I think it was a few years ago, but we just recognized that there's a lot of ifs then else with the facial recognition capabilities and technologies. And we decided that this is not the right forum for us to play in. The broader biometric is a different little bit story, but we made a very strong pass at the facial recognition piece of it and said, we didn't thought the technology was there or it was accounting for all the ethics that we think are important to play. And we said, we're not going to go do it. And that, as I said, IBM has a very strong discipline with AI. We have our own AI ethics board. We have our own chief privacy officer. We go through any technology that we bring, Rob, in the marketplace. It goes through the ethics board. We go through our framework to say, does this technology is the right thing for the broader consumer and the enterprise business? Does it meet IBM standard and the federal standards that we are helping shape also in the marketplace, right? So that goes through the entire process. And even when we are embedding these technologies within IBM technologies, it goes through the same vetting process, especially in the AI domain.
It's interesting that you kind of separate facial recognition from other biometrics, but as I'm thinking about it, it does make sense. Like, for example, another biometric, which would be, for example, using my fingerprint to sign into my MacBook, that was opt-in, right? Like, that was fully my choice. I consented to that. But the facial recognition stuff, like an average American is caught on camera like 200 times a day, like I didn't consent to that, right? And so the idea there, that's like, oh, well, facial recognition technology could be fed that kind of data, CCTV footage, without my knowing it. That feels like a very different thing to a fingerprint, for example. Is that kind of how IBM breaks it out?
Yeah, similar to that. I will agree with that. But also just some of the technology's nuances, right? Again, are we making sure that we are not purposefully in the technology biasing against any gender or any ethnicity or any other gender constraints, right? So we just have to make sure the technology is firmed up enough for us to be very sure about the end results. And if we are not, then it doesn't make sense for us to put those capabilities out in the marketplace.
Yeah, makes sense. So Watson, I'm sure like most people out there, came on my radar when it went on Jeopardy. And that was a really fun Rubicon moment, I thought. Very exciting. And that was 10 years ago, as you say, 12 years ago. So I'm sure Watson's come a long way. So that was 10 years ago or 12 years ago. Watson has come a long way, undoubtedly. You mentioned a little bit about what Watsonx, but I would love to know what's happened in the last 12 years and what is kind of the current application you're seeing for Watsonx.
Oh, so first of all, we have implemented Watson in a lot of our customer environments, in a lot of our own technologies, right? That's point one. As an example, for example, our voice recognition and chatbotting capabilities. Just one example, Bradesco is handling 90% of their call volumes through some of these capabilities, right? So we got very prescriptive with Watson and infusing the core of the Watson principles. People remember the Jeopardy thing, but the core technology pieces, we took all those pieces out and infused both IBM product set, but also help our clients get the value from the Watson capabilities. And now what we're doing with Watsonx is taking that next step where we are now not only us building capabilities, but we are providing our clients a platform to build their own. I use the word, Rob, when I talk to clients, it's interesting. Every client I talk to, they're all looking to build their own unique story, right? Their own unique point of view with their own unique data, right? And their own unique customer pain points. So I look at Watson X now is a is a vehicle to help customer build their own unique AI story. Of course, they can get help from us as well to implement that, but they can use, as I said, our tooling, our framework and tool to build, play with generative AI models, machine learning models. They can use our data repository to store empty amounts of data that is needed to tell their own story. And then to validate that story, to provide authenticity to that story, they can use our governance framework, which is very important to scale. That's what we learned in the Watson journey, right? How you scale this from 1 to 1,000 in big enterprise environments. Customers need help. So governance is a good mechanism to kind of bring all of this together. But I really look at Watsonx as that canvas to help customers tell their own story in their own way with their own data.
Could you maybe give an example of a way that customers are using Watsonx?
For example, customers are using some of our Watsonx capabilities, playing with large foundational models to simply help build a Q&A system or a chatbot system, or to help with the end-to-end workflow automation in HR or in marketing or in sales, for example, right? So from automation to some of the use cases that I'm seeing across the board, Rob, is content generation, content summarization, chatbots, Q&As, and in some cases, very specific. For example, we have a case study out there where NASA brought their geospatial data to build their own unique foundation model. So every foundation model doesn't have to be large language model that ChatGPT has, right? We have customers coming to in where they want to bring their own specific data in a consortium to leverage the base capability of the foundation model concept, but very geared towards that. We are, for example, for code generation, for productivity, we announced something called Watson Code Assistant, which take just a simple use case, Ansible scripting for automation, and completely automate that process, right? So those are the examples we are starting to see all across. My take, Rob, is right now is kind of the experimentation mode with the generative AI. The next 18 to 24 months, clients will take that experimentation then into productization mode. And then from there, when they're looking to scale, then the capabilities of governance and all this will start to kind of come in. But right now, I'll say, Rob, we are in rapid experimentation mode across. I haven't been in any meeting where a client hasn't asked. They are trying to frame their AI strategy to their board. That's the number one topic I see across the globe, across the set of clients in different industries, verticals, so forth and so on.
It does feel like every company is an AI company, right? Or needs to at least leverage it in some way.
Or at least they need to have a point of view of what they're doing, right? But that's where I come back to my original point. What problem you're trying to solve? Because then it's very easy to get carried away in the notion and spend millions of dollars, or in some cases, billions of dollars trying to do something without knowing what the end game is. So that's why it's very important when you talk to clients is first discussion is what is the use case? What is the problem statement? What are we trying to solve? Because then you can get a little bit more methodical, prescriptive in charting out that course. But since right now there's fear of missing out so much that everybody just wants to jump in, right? Which is a good thing. But where we are bringing our knowledge set and our experiences is helping clients is much more than that, right? Is let's step back for a second and let's see where we can help you to solve the right pain point.
Yeah, of course. And that consultative approach is so important because obviously AI has all this hype and sexiness attached to it. Everyone wants to use it or tell their board or their VCs that they're using it. But I had a guest on from Bell, Dahlia, and she was basically saying like there's a lot of overkill going on. I can't remember exactly the example she gave. I think she was talking about regression analyses. But the point I took away was like, why use a super collider when a pivot table will do, right? And so that feels like the first step of your process.
I give you a different lens of that example, right? Let's look at, I can do a lot of poem writing or content generation or content summarization through generative models, right? But let's say if the bill of doing all this stuff is millions of dollars, if you are the CEO or the CIO, is the return on that investment is worth it? You have to put that in the context, right? What are you really trying to solve? Am I willing to spend $10 million because I can summarize my emails? Or I can get some insights from my emails. In some cases, it might be okay. In a lot of cases, once you start to put dollar figures around that problem statement, because in the end, every client, right? What do you think is going on? Cost cutting, return on value, quick justification. So what's happening when you take these AI and then you start to morph and then suddenly the price tag starts to come in? A lot of our C-suite audience then is saying, okay, as you said, Do I need a pivot table or do I need a super collider? What do I need to go solve this thing? And that's where that consultative approach becomes very important, because in the end, everything, especially the clientele we work with, it comes down to return on investment, right? What am I spending and what am I getting?
Could I get your thoughts quickly on compute power and costs?
Oh,
Because as you say, it can be fantastically expensive. And my question is, do you anticipate compute power and the costs associated to drop, as we've seen with other cloud computing and has come down in cost in a lot of cases? Even looking at just like the chips inside the technology we're using, all of that has become smaller and more affordable. Do you expect it'll be similar with other areas of AI?
it might, but we are a little bit far away, because the number one thing right now is the GPUs, right? And there's a hot demand for GPUs, and there's only a few players. And for example, for us, we have months wait to get GPUs in the marketplace. So at some point in time, as more and more innovation comes in, these things will get better and better. But right now, there's a huge price tag. I'm not too concerned on the compute power side, the CPUs, but to when I'm inferencing these models, I'm hitting somewhere at the GPU's level, right? Then you have to relate, right? What is my workload? How many times I'm going to inference this thing? What is the computational power I need to inference it? Now in cloud world, it's okay. Cloud world is interesting, right? Because you don't have to worry about the setting up piece. So it's easy to go spend your money, but it's also very easy to overspend your money because there's nothing going on, right? So that's some of the debates that customers will soon. I'll give you an example. I was with a client, and the client goes, they had this open AI thing going on, and they were experimenting with it. And the client was like, if I give unfiltered access to everybody in my shop and let them go hit open AI, the bills are astronomical. So I have, even though they're charging, everybody's charging 20 cents per token or 5 cents per token, but you add up all those queries, they add up, right? And if you as an end user have no notion of the cost, you don't care. You just write your query, what is my dog's name, right? Even though you know your dog's name, for the fun sake, you will ask the chatbot, what is my dog's name, and see if the right answer comes out, right? So that's where these cost calculations starts to, as customers goes from experimentation to say, okay, let me go now into production. Those are important topics and discussions and debates, and you have to factor all this in.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, well, hopefully we see that drop in compute power. That will certainly make it more accessible to many people, which is what we want. Tarun, I do want to make sure we spend a little more time with Watsonx. And specifically, it's been broken down into 3 subcategories. We have Watsonx.ai, Watsonx data, and then governance. And so I'd love to know, why was it necessary to break it into these 3 components? And then if you can kind of run us through all 3 of them, I'd love that too.
Thank you, Rob. I think the reason is because, as we learned through our journey, clients need just not a tool to play with models. They need a strong repository to store a lot of data for these models. And they need a very strong governance framework to apply across these models to scale. And it's not all about also individual componentry. It all has to come together in one solution. And that's why the word platform, right? So for me, Watsonx is if I explain it, is our new AI and data platform to empower big enterprises, small enterprises, medium enterprises to train, tune, and deploy AI across their business, right? Leveraging, I think the key thing, Rob, here is leveraging their key critical data, which is their unique differentiation. So we can think about Watsonx in 3 different components and them all coming together again. So the 3 components, as you mentioned, one is Watsonx.ai. Think of it as simply a tool for AI builders to train, validate, tune, deploy both traditional ML models as well as foundational models in one kind of solution, right? These models combine best of breed architecture with a rigorous focus on data acquisition, governance, quality to serve enterprise needs. And what do I mean by that? In the Watsonx.ai, clients can bring their own models. Clients can use open source models. And more importantly, what our clients are asking, hey, IBM, can you provide IBM models where you are attesting to the data quality of these models and that can pass their legal and compliance and regulation requirements? That is a big differentiation. That is a big topic for our clients, right? They can experiment with open source models, but when they want to deploy them, when they want to put into production, they need somebody to stand behind to say, hey, the data that went into these foundation models or large language models, I am standing behind that this data has all the commercial licenses and all this other stuff, right? You can see there's a lot of suing and everything happening in the marketplace on some of the other stuff, right? So that's one piece. The Watsonx.data is what it makes possible for enterprise to scale AI workloads using all of their data with a fit for purpose data lakehouse optimized for data and AI workloads, right? Which has querying, governance built in, open lakehouse formats. This is all based on open technologies, Prestos and Iceberg. And finally, the Watsonx governance is help combines what I think is critical, put AI into production by providing an end-to-end solution that encompasses both data governance and AI governance to help explain responsible, transparent, explainable AI workflows to your constituents, right? If you thought machine learning was a black box, foundation model is even a bigger black box. There's tons of data that has gone in to provide that value, right? To provide that unique differentiation. And a lot of customers, when they put them into production mode, somebody needs to be able to explain what went in and what it is doing, right? It can be a black box when you are giving answers to your end customers and somebody asks you the question, well, how did you came to that conclusion? Well, I don't know. My AI said it, right? It won't be palatable for brand from their brand equity perspective. So they are looking for ways on how to explain all this stuff that they are going to be putting out in front of their customers, right? Chatbot is a great example. If you put an answer out in a chatbot for your brand and somebody says, well, how did you came to that? Why did you decline my loan? Well, the AI did it. That's not a good answer, right? So that's why governance is super critical. And I want the audience to leave with the fact that, as I said, these are all three different, but they all come together as platform. And the other thing I will say is one of the things we have learned, a lot of our clients wants to deploy these capabilities on-prem as well. So it's not just the cloud world. And that's why our hybrid approach, you can run into multiple clouds, you can run it on-prem as well, all built on our OpenShift technology, right? So that's a big plus for our clients because they are looking for that flexibility. And the use cases, just to wrap it up, Rob, I will say the use cases that we're working across the spectrum is around digital labor, automation, security, sustainability, code modernization, all of those 5 or 6 use cases that are coming to the top of the heap when we are engaging with clients.
Thank you for walking me through that. Super helpful. And I'm really pleased to hear that the governance subcategory is taken so seriously. The explainability is obviously super top of mind and important. And I remember there was a time when it was like cool to say that you had a black box algorithm. It's like, oh, we don't even know how it works. That's how advanced it is. And now, not cool at all, right?
No, I don't know if you saw the recent where the ChatGPT results are declining accuracy because it's drifting a little bit, right? So when you put these models into production, it's not about just that time of instance. In a production environment, in 3 months from now, you want to go back and see the framework I defined for that model to be successful. Is it still following that framework? Is it drifting? Is it going down because bad data is coming in and the accuracy has gone down? So those becomes very important points in your enterprise environments.
Yeah, it's a constant struggle, constant monitoring going on. I'm glad to hear that Watsonx includes that at such a high level. Tarun, this has been fantastic chatting with you today. And before I let you go, I just want to ask you to give some advice to the folks out there in podcast land. For our listeners who are forging a career in the AI and ML space, what advice would you give them?
The most important thing you need is curiosity. Be strong-hearted because this is not for the weak-hearted. This place, I tell my customers, what I told you today might be false tomorrow or untrue tomorrow because the space is changing so fast, so rapidly. Be a curious mind, learn a lot, engage. Best way to get is to get your hands in. Pick your field, be an engineer or a product manager or a sales marketer, pick your domain, but be very adventureful because this space requires that kind of characteristics and demeanor to be successful.
Well, if that's the case, then I have to have you back on tomorrow, Tarun, if the space is going to change that fast and you can update us on everything new that IBM...
I might have something new to tell you tomorrow, Rob.
...is doing. We'll definitely have you back. I'll let you go a little bit between appearances. I don't want to dilute the Tarun brand too much. For now, I'll just say this has been really, really great learning from you and chatting with you today, Tarun. Thank you so much for being on the podcast with me today.
Thank you so much, Rob. Really appreciate the opportunity.
How AI Happens is brought to you by Sama. Sama provides accurate data for ambitious AI, specializing in image, video, and sensor data annotation and validation for machine learning algorithms in industries such as transportation, retail, e-commerce, media, medtech, robotics, and agriculture. For more information, head to sama.com.